Hello, Bren White for Reality 101, Episode 8. Thank you again for being a part of this series. And today, I just want to share a few things with you about the thought process. We started talking about seed thoughts, things that get planted in the human mind and the heart. And that is the way it works. And there are several universal principles that have been talked about for centuries by human beings. And I just want to share a few of those to get started today. I mentioned one before that says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This means that you and I are what we think. And there have been many books written about this, starting with As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. But even in modern times, there are probably hundreds of paperbacks talking about you and I are indeed what we think. This is where all the seeds are planted in the mind and they come out in our living. That's the outcome. You reap what you sow, as we talked about. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now, let me just mention a couple of other things that a French philosopher said, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. The design of human beings is such that you and I intrinsically know with our thinking capabilities that we are thinking, that we can think, that our thinking has an outward, an external result. What we think in our heads has an external result. Human beings know this. And this is part of the learning process, even in terms of you and I trying things and failing. We learn things about our own thinking. But we have thinking capability that is designed in, it's built in to human beings. And neuroscientists know this in great detail. It's the most complex microprocessor, if you can call it that. It's more than that. The living soul, the psyche, is greater than any AI will ever be, any technology will ever be, because it's designed by the living God. And this thought process actually is part of you and I being made in the image of God. Human beings can actually plan something and do it. Human beings can think about something, have an idea, and get consequences from executing that idea. Human beings can actually set out goals. They can decide to try different things, and they get some kind of feedback every time they take a thought and they put it into action. That's the way human beings are designed. There is no way of getting around that. There's no way. That is the truth. This is the truth. And human beings who don't want to accept this are basically not wanting to accept reality. This is reality. This is what the wisest minds have thought about throughout history, throughout all the centuries. And it comes to be that such people as Blaise Pascal back in the 1400s, another French philosopher, says, if a man is not made for God, why is he happy only in God? Now, this takes a certain kind of thinking to even arrange this question. This is a very interesting and kind of complexly structured question. If man is made for God, why is he opposed to God? Blaise Pascal just asked two of the biggest questions, fundamental questions, using his brain. It was just his thought, his thinking as a bright human being, and he was bright because basically all mathematics goes back to Blaise Pascal. All computers, all technology goes back to Blaise Pascal. He was brilliant. he used his mind to ask this question, these two questions. Now, this tells you something, but part of what I'm trying to convey in this series is that reality is designed in. It is based on truth about the design of human beings and of all things. There is truth that is universal, that is unavoidable, inescapable, and human beings who try to not accept this overarching truth, this overarching design, they harm themselves every single time. The human beings who want to pretend otherwise always get destructive consequences in their life, around them, and even vis-a-vis other human beings. There is destruction. Now, there's a couple things I have to share with you at this juncture that Jesus Christ said, because he knew this completely. He understood this completely. As I said before, he brought the reasoning of the designer into the world so that human beings can begin to understand what they were made for, what they're designed for. Okay? This is the whole reason. This is the whole reason. And Blaise Pascal, one of the brilliant minds of all time, knew this well. And so I mentioned once before that Jesus talks a lot about seeds, about truth, about planting words of truth in your mind so that things that are true, that are good, will come out in your living. Okay? This is a major part of his message. And so he is basically confirming all of these other things that we have been talking about in what he says. But let me just read you one other thing that was actually, it's a statement, it's a thought from Antisthenes about 400 years before Jesus Christ came into the world. And he said, this Greek philosopher, the problems that exist in the world today cannot be solved by the level of thinking that created them. Okay? Now, I want you to think about that for a second. This is why Jesus Christ came into the world. He had to come into the world to bring the thinking, the level of thinking of God, the creator and sustainer of all things, to human beings so that human beings could begin to see the big picture and understand what is true. Now, this is because of sin coming into the world by, men having and women having thoughts about listening to other voices other than the one who put them here. Okay, this is the way it is. And Jesus Christ comes to try to, and he does, resolve this, reconcile all of this definitively for all time. And so in Christ, in Jesus Christ, he is full of truth. He is the truth coming from the origin of all things, the origin of reality. He's coming from God himself to bring us this fresh look at what reality is of truth. Now, some human beings didn't want to hear it because they were all tangled up in a bunch of evil stuff and scheming and selfishness and a bunch of other things that was ruining them, that damaged them, that actually ruined their thinking. This is the way sin and evil work. They actually ruin the human soul, the psyche, our capability to think well. Okay? Now, and this is who we are, by the way. This thought process determines who we are, who we become. Now, Jesus says in one point in Matthew 12, he says in verse 33, a tree is identified by its fruit. here we go again, talking about planting something. It grows. What comes out of this tree or this plant? It's identified by its fruit. If a tree is good, its fruit will be good. Have you ever seen rotten apples hanging on a tree? If a tree is bad, its fruit will be bad. What's going on inside the tree determines what comes out. Okay? External. That's exactly what I was just talking about. And he goes on, because he's dealing with some people who are pretty evil, actually, the ones he's talking to right now. And he says, how could evil men like you speak what is good and right? Okay, now, they probably aren't going to like this, but he's just being honest, totally honest with these men. For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. Now, Jesus Christ was very big about this. He talked about the heart constantly, all the way through his time on earth. The heart. He says, your heart is far from me. Some people pretend to be religious, and then their heart is filled with a bunch of other stuff, not God, not the goodness of God, not the love of God, not the thinking of God, some other bunch of mixture of stuff. And Jesus Christ then comes and he says, basically, the people who are going to see God are not going to have a mixture of things in their hearts and in their minds. And this is Matthew 6, 33, where he's talking about you and I seeking the kingdom first. Back in Matthew 5, he's talking about that same wholeness of heart that is required, and he actually is telling people that only the pure in heart, that's the translation in English, it's actually kadaroi en kardia, those who have a singleness of heart, an unmingled heart, not a bunch of junk swishing around up here, but actually have a heart that is totally focused on God, your maker, totally obsessed with the one who put you here and what he wants and what his purpose for you existing is. This is what Jesus is saying. You will definitely see God if your heart is like that. If your thinking is that focused on the one who made you, who loves you completely, you will see God. Okay? Now, all of this is very, very important, but let me just come back to this passage, because after he says, for whatever is in your heart determines what you say, he goes on and he says, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. You're putting good things into your mind. An evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. All the evil going on in the world right now, it's coming out of an evil human heart. A heart that is filled, a mind that is filled with evil, with hate, not with love, not with purposefulness, but with destruction. Basically, the heart that is filled with evil is totally destructive. It even destroys those people who are filling themselves with these evil schemes and evil ideas, which have evil consequences outside of them and in the world. This is why there's so much darkness in the world. Exactly what Jesus Christ is addressing. He's speaking the truth. He is speaking the truth, and you know it, and I know it. He's speaking the truth. He goes on, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every word you speak. For everything you say, okay? And he's talking to these guys who are just saying a bunch of lies constantly, saying, you will give account on Judgment Day. Now, he didn't care how these people felt about him saying this, because he was speaking the truth. And he actually knows that there will be a judgment day, because he is the judge. He is the judge. He will judge every person's soul on Judgment Day. Absolutely. This is reality. When there's no accountability, to, up to another higher level. People do all kinds of dumb stuff, dangerous stuff, destructive stuff, hate-filled stuff. And they ruin themselves. And Jesus is making a point to these evil leaders. But on the day of judgment, you will have to give account, and for every word you have spoken. Okay? This is true for all human beings. Nobody gets out of this. This is reality. The reality is all human beings are accountable before their Maker. There's no way around it. You can pretend all you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is reality, according to the God who holds you in life right now. Without him, you would not be able to breathe. You would not be able to breathe at this second, except he is permitting it. He is facilitating it. And when he stops facilitating it, you will be done on this earth. And after that, you will give an account to him. That's reality. Now, the words you will say will either acquit you or condemn you. If you have said words that are evil in some way, destructive in some way, if you have passed on lies, if you believed lies from the world and from maybe other leaders who are evil, if you pass that on, if you speak those lies, you will be accountable. Okay? Very, very important to understand in order to be able to live in reality, connected to reality. Otherwise, you just pretend your entire life. You hurt yourself, you hurt other people, you destroy things in the world. And you really mar what God has done. The beautiful, beautiful thing God has done. The human being, the human mind is just awesomely designed. I hope you realize that. The world is beautifully designed. The creation of all the earth, the complexity of that, the complexity of the universe. I hope you realize how awesome that is. And it is just a reflection of the awesomeness of the creator and sustainer of all things. And he has gone to great lengths in sending Jesus Christ, God in the flesh, to help you and I to understand what the truth is, what reality is. And this is needed more right now today in the world than probably any other time. It's needed right now. And if we are coming to the end, if Jesus does return in a short period of time, you need to be ready. You need to be ready. But even if that doesn't happen in the next year or two, you need to be ready. And you need to live your life in the most meaningful way possible, listening to the one who only speaks truth. Only speaks truth because he is full of truth and love. That is the character of God. That is the character of Jesus Christ. And this is where you and I need to really pay attention and lock in. God bless you. You have a great week. Bye-bye.